Watching the leading women debate here on CNBC Africa, and joining me to my immediate right, I am joined by Precious Moloi-Motsepe, who is Executive Chairperson of African Fashion International and also co-founder of the Motsepe Foundation. Then we are joined by Futhi Mtoba, who is ex-chairperson of the Deloitte Southern Africa Board, and Monhla, who is chairperson of the Industrial Development Corporation and also chairperson of Royal Bafokeng. I'm Bronwyn Nielsen, Executive Director of CNBC Africa. I'm also a mother of two small children, Kate, who is nearly 4, and my son Daniel, who is nearly 2. I'm a mother whose heart breaks every time my children want their father to console them in the middle of the night. And further, when the first settling in report I received from my 3.5-year-old daughter then, which was a couple of months ago, said that Kate has settled down very well at school and she leaves her father very confidently in the mornings. So it meant that already the teachers and the mothers had picked up that I was absent on the school run. So Precious, who's the real you?
That's a tough one to go into, but very important. I think I'm the woman whose life has been around how do I empower women to be the best they can be in their careers or at home. I'm also a mother to 3 children, 3 boys, aged 24, 17, and 10. And I see myself as that mother who needs to train her boys to work and respect women, and will be in a workplace where women are as, ambitious as they are, and they will have respect for that.
Futhi, does my story resonate?
Oh, very much. Yeah, I remember that it can be very sad when the child wakes up at night and says daddy instead of mom. But I think there are lessons from that. Very soon, I understood exactly what drives children. And for me, it's that they need security and somebody that is reliable. That's the end of the story. There's no affinity for being a woman that makes you a great mother or whatever. But so I've got 2 kids. They are now grown-ups. So I'm dealing with different problems now. One just completed varsity and one still in high school, but also ready to be out of university. And I've been one person who believed that as a woman, I enjoy being a mother and enjoy being a wife. So on Sunday, I'm cooking and enjoy being there. But at the same time, I believe that I wanted to have a career and I thought I must go for it. So that's me.
Monhla, we've often engaged on the topic. Is there such a thing as balance? Are you a superwoman?
There is no superwoman, and there is nothing like balance, except, or there is balance, but it's how you define it. Not to put you all on the spot, because I'm a girl on the second half of her life. I made a decision to take a break and redefine that I want to do after a long career life. I would have loved to have born my own children, because I think there is a greater joy for women to have done that. But when I look throughout my life, I do believe that balance is what you achieve throughout your lifetime. You should be able to look back and say, I got time to play, time to be serious, time to have a career, time to jowl, time to do this. And then in that way, one can find balance. It's very difficult to think about it at a point in time when, as women, we are trying to balance so many things and are always in a rush. But yeah, I feel as though my second life has presented a lot of wonderful opportunities in the sense that I married late. I've got a beautiful stepdaughter. I haven't born one my own. She has given me joy and balance, and I've got a husband late in life. I'm sure there are many girls who, like me, are rushing through a career. And there's always an opportunity to allow yourself to discover the various aspects of who you are. It doesn't matter at what age. So I've got it now.
Precious, when did you decide to take your career seriously? I don't know if many people know that you are a medical doctor.
Yes, I went into medicine because I was inspired by my mother, who was a nursing sister at Baragwanath Hospital. But I was also inspired by my grandmother, who was a caregiver in our community. I grew up in Soweto, very tough circumstances, but it's these two people who encouraged me to do what I later did in life. And I loved medicine because I felt it was one way I could, be of service to others. Medical school was very difficult. Managed to get from Soweto to Vets Medical School, and coming from an education system that was completely didn't prepare me to get into vets was very tough. I had many moments where I felt, this is it, I'm going to give up. But somehow I stayed on with the encouragement of my mom and friends, like Futi, who was with me at vets at that time. And I met my husband when I was studying, actually, at the university. And we got married shortly after that. So the challenge for me was, I had just finished my medical degree. I wanted to go on and specialize. But I was at the peak of my hormonal biological clock. So, and that was quickly going to tick and leave me behind. So I had to make a decision. Do I go and specialize, or do I start a family? And that was very hard. I eventually decided, for me, it's not going to be a straight climbing up the ladder. I chose to do it in stages. So I had my children, stayed at home, got out of my career for a while, did other things like studying, and I would go back and carry on from there. So
and no regrets with the way you've done it?
Absolutely. And it's, it can be different for different people. It's not either or. It has to be a choice that you consciously make, and everything obviously has to fall in place. You have to have the husband. You can't
not
now have the children. Well, ideally you would like to have a family when you know that there's security, as she referred to.
Futi, you were at Wits together. Does your story differ?
Well, my story differs in the sense that I went and I joined my boyfriend then in the Eastern Cape.
So men are a common theme here.
Well, a girl must do what a girl must do. Then, so then at that point, I was studying for honors in economics, because I also had these ambitions about being this serious economist. Then I joined an accounting firm, and then everything is history. Then from there, he decided to move up to Johannesburg, to Para. Of course, I tagged along to Johannesburg again, and then at that point, joined Deloitte, and I've never looked back. Through that, I learned a lot. In that, when I joined Deloitte, being that Eurocentric organization, hardworking, driven people, very few black people, women also few at the time, I then had my children. And at the same time, I was studying. So I really was in this trying to deal with everything. But one of the key things, coming back to what Precious was saying, was that I've always looked at my life as the choices that I've made. And I've always told myself that I make choices, and choices comes with consequences. And then I have to deal with the consequences of my choices, which means trying to be what you must be, the best in your organization, at the same time try to deal with raising a family. And therefore that requires you to have quite a number of strategies, which I'll help you talk about later.
We're definitely going to drill into those multitasking strategies. Montla, you've already revealed that you married later in life, so you weren't distracted by the boys early on.
It's actually a very weird question because as I'm listening to my friend's background, I realized that I don't know if it was maybe the background of being in Limpopo. And by the way, I had a fantastic boyfriend. I was just I was a jailbird. I was a school dropout. I'm one of those that I would say it's about accepting every space where you have arrived than making a choice. Because it took me too long to realize how much a lot of things in my life were choices I made. All I knew was that, Montla, you are here, and when you are here, you make the best of being here. And as a result, I define myself as a woman who, it doesn't matter which door you open and you think it's going to be tough for this girl, she's going to make the best of it and to keep moving because
Can I
I'm a survivor.
interject? Was I hearing you correctly when you said that you were a dropout and a jailbird, a school dropout? This is the CEO of AXA for 10 years we're talking to.
Mm.
You're
Yes,
going to have to take us back because I'm sure everybody in the audience also heard that. So take us back and tell me how you recovered.
The amazing thing about knowing that life really is every time there's a door that opens is that even when things are very bad, if you just learn the way I have to use all of your senses and look around you, you will see the door. And when you've fallen down, there's no further ground to go to. The only way is to stand up. And if you just make the best of that door and stop blaming other people or doing this, I just recall that everything in life, I would find a way because of other people around me. And maybe I didn't focus enough on the good opportunities on a social life that I had because I was too much of a young activist then. And I have no regrets about it, except to say that the joy of where we have arrived as friends is how we also enrich each other in business and support one another. And we actually forget how innocent at times we were. And just listening to them, I'm saying to myself, wow, what would have happened to me? Maybe if I've gotten married and I've had children in the middle of Ratlatla Mleji. And probably I would be selling tomatoes on the street like some of my childhood friends. I don't know. But all I know is that here I am, absolutely fulfilled, even in terms of that history of the ability to get out of school and come back again and be in jail, and then it doesn't become the jail of the brain, but it becomes a liberation of his soul, and that's where the power of choice comes in, because one of the indicators that you're grown up is the ability to recognize that within you is the power to make choice.
Just listening to your stories is inspiring. So let's jump right through to entrepreneurship, into inspiring a new generation of women. And Futhi, that's very close to your heart.
Well, I think our young people, in fact, our country is in a good hands, and I dare say the continent is, because when I look at the young people that come to me, under the guise that I'm mentoring them, and they are mentoring me, by the way, it's just so fulfilling that we have such huge, huge potential, great capabilities. And what we are left to do, and what I always do, is just to put my story and say it's going to be tough, it's going to be easy, it's going to be tear time, it's going to be smiles. It's all in the game. There's nothing strange about it. You shouldn't say or throw your hands in your towel, whatever, and think, okay, now life is dishing this out for me. Just take it in its stride, and that's really what I believe we have as a country and as a continent.
African Fashion International, you're taking young South African designers, you're putting them on an international platform where they can showcase in New York. Talk a little bit about your work and what you're doing to inspire the younger generation.
Well, you know, a lot of people ask me, how could you have moved from a profession like medicine into fashion? And for me, the link has always been around women. I moved into fashion after I was exposed to the hardships that many women go through. I had a practice in Morningside, women's health practice. And I saw a lot of women, and it was the same story over and over again. And to me, it registered as, you know, disease, poverty, that link to economic empowerment, that's very close. I got an opportunity to go into fashion and realized that it was an industry that employs a lot of women as seamstresses, designers. It also is an industry that is supported by a lot of women. So we wield a lot of power in what happens in the industry through our money. We buy, you know, fashion. We're the main consumers. So when I came into the industry in South Africa, it's been very difficult because we were closed off for such a long time. And it was important for us to find young talent, because we've got amazing talent in the country. Give these people a platform where they can put their creativity to be seen by other women, to be supported by other women, and we could teach them in business skills, teach them you know, the ins and out of the fashion industry, and make them realize that that creativity could actually be turned into something that they can live off. You know, they can run serious businesses in the fashion industry. We have various programs where we teach young people. We have the so-called fast track, AFI fast track program, where we get young people from fashion schools, and we take them through a 12-month process of business skill training and mentor them. And we pair them with the older designers who've been in the industry for a long time, so they can teach them as well. We take them to other places globally. We've been to New York, Paris, Milan, and we expose our young fashion designers to what's happening in the global fashion market. So that is exciting for me, because not only are we nurturing this young talent, but we're also helping the young talent to, you know, turn into serious businesses that can support themselves, employ more people, other women, as well as showcase the, you know, creativity of our continent.
Wantla, I've seen firsthand how you inspire and mentor women around you. We were chatting earlier about Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, and the quote that I love, that hell has a special place for women who don't support other women. You debunk that theory. And I know that going forward, you're going to do more for leadership and for mentorship.
I think it's very disheartening when you look at the report that was issued by Statistics South Africa, that it is less likely for a woman in South Africa today to become a manager or a technician, because statistically it is better for South African businesses to even hire a man as a technician into a managerial position, or without a degree, or without even a matric, than a woman with more than 2 degrees. And when you look at that and you think about the opportunity and the experience of heading up a company like Airports Company South Africa, you can't help but say, how do we get the vast of brilliant women of any age to become big business people, to stay in their companies and not quit?
Before you go further, why are South African businesses still obsessed with hiring men into managerial positions, in your opinion?
I think it's because they find us strange. And to the extent that we demystify the role and make a concerted effort to show our own society and our own families that by allowing in in a partnership, a brilliant doctor, a brilliant visionary around fashion, to double between work and being a mother, has brought to South Africa a platform for fashion that wouldn't otherwise exist. To look at a woman who studies all these economics and still becomes a mother and goes and chairs an audit firm, and even thinks about how we can start to bring new skills in mathematics to teach our children. Those opportunities arrive in a society that is able to capitalize on the talent it has within it. And that talent comes in skirts and pants. And we can't do it without the different views that the men have, nor can they create a better society without also bringing in the wonderful ideas that the women have. And look, the fact that I managed to stay in Airport's company for so long and lead a transformation of our airport, supported by brilliant men and women, says that we should try and create more and even bigger. It should be possible that women at any age are able to turn the platform of fashion into the #1 fashion lady in the world coming out of South Africa. As much as it could be anything, so that as much as we have men leading beautiful global companies, that any woman out of this continent of Africa can be on any platform in the world and adding value and not feeling that they are inadequate for a world that doesn't understand their language and their purpose.
Futhi,
Yeah, just if we talk about women in business, we cannot talk about it without looking at the context of where business is going globally and where even where the African continent is going. With the one mind to ask ourselves that if we truly want to make Africa competitive, we cannot afford to leave almost 50% of our talent and not utilize it. And if you think that the world is short of leaders, there you have 50% of the leaders that you are untapping. It cannot be a sound solution for anybody. So therefore, really nurturing and collaborating around empowering of women is not a nice to have, but a critical issue for companies, for the individual women, in order to create this prosperity in the continent that we want, and the wealth and the well-being of everybody, and also just to move our countries forward.
I said this at the last Leading Women debate, and that is that I run a series called Captains of Industry. There are possibly, over the last 3 years, I've been running Captains of Industry back to back for 3 years, and I've probably interviewed 10 women in total. There's a problem.
There is a serious problem. And just listening to Futhi and Monhla, I just want to maybe point out 2 issues that in our attempt to push for economic empowerment of women, we probably miss out on, and we end up putting bandages, bandage solutions. Do you know, for instance, that a young girl, a young pubertal girl, has less of a chance of coming out of university, having studied math, science, and going into the tech world and becoming top CEO of an organization, because she has a menstrual cycle where she has to be away from school for 4 days a month. Now, if you think of that young girl who is in Limpopo, for instance, if the local planners, local government planners, do not take into account her needs as she grows up as a young child, her chances of success later on in life are reduced. So what I'm saying is, government has its goals. we have for each department gender goals, but without putting, and you know from business, you can have goals, you've got a strategy. If you don't put resources behind that strategy, it's going to fail. So there is a tool that helps government to make sure that they match their goals with what actually happens. And it's called the Gender Responsive Budgeting Initiative. And what the tool does, it says, okay, so you, Department of Trade and Industry, you want to empower young women to be in business. Let's look at your budget and see how you are equitably distributing your funds to make sure that women have access to these. And it says to, we have this huge infrastructure program that's going on. And it says to the minister or the people responsible, okay, now of these billions of money that are going to be spent in this area, how much of that will be accessible to women? So we break down budget, we disaggregate budgets to actually make sure that the goals that government has in terms of empowering women actually happen. If I may just point out to the second factor. So that was initially the Gender Responsive Budgeting Initiative, which My Family Foundation is working on with the UN Women, as well as the Department of Women, Children, and People with Disability. The second one is, we talk about young women owning the world, owning these big companies. But, it's as though we're talking, it's the same in education. We talk about a system that's been there for hundreds of years. The structure of the labor market, it has been there to accommodate men. It works for men. It does not work for women. It does not support women. For instance, there are companies that up till this day, if you go there, they don't have a female toilet. So it's simple things like that. And then there's the big
It's really
elephant
going
in
back
the
to
room.
basics.
Absolutely. And then the big elephant in the room, Bronwyn, is how we communicate, how men and women are wired differently and therefore make different decisions, will diagnose problems in the workplace differently, and see a different perspective to issues. And because we don't talk about that, we end up in a conflict situation. Say, here you are, Bronwyn, talking to me as a man, and you talk to me as if you imagine you're a round football, figure, that's how you talk. And how do I receive information? I'm a square. So we're constantly battling. I can't hear you, and it's just an imbalance. So
Is there any hope, Montla?
There's definitely hope.
Putting a square and a round ball together doesn't sound very hopeful to me.
The brilliant thing about today is that you're listening to a woman business leader articulating the scenario from a point of view of experience. Sometimes it's better to win and to influence a step at a time, or a circle at a time, or a square at a time. Imagine if all of us here recognize that wherever we sit as women executives, the power to begin to notice how we differ, how we leverage, how we grow, and how we can make significant changes for our lives at home and our society begins with each one of us per square meter and per circle. And the more we engage that way, and the more we realize that maybe we haven't figured out the right language, maybe it's not about being listened to and being heard first, it's about hearing where the fears come from. A step at a time, we will create an environment for work that is also conducive for us. And it is by making sure that we all step in and not quit and stick it out.
Talking about quitting, Ms. Mtoba, ex-chairperson of the Deloitte Southern Africa Board.
I've quit the position, not the place. So now I am in the organization, still finding myself useful around it. But I want to add on the point that's being said here, is that organizations have to have very targeted, very intentional, and very focused strategies to to address women. In fact, within Deloitte, I enjoyed that benefit from both being part of the experience and driving it also, because I was there. In the sense that there are certain things that will never change. And for me, and I understand it from my own experience, is that no matter how you can come to school, same qualification, get into the organization, when it comes to having your children, women are going to continue for some time to bear the responsibilities of the family. And organizations have to adapt to that in order to accommodate us.
Either that, or they've got to find a way for men to have the children.
Yeah, yes, and I think it is those strategies that needs to be really harnessed and taken one step further. And it's those opportunities that ourselves as women, we must take advantage of. To say, if this environment is conducive to me working and still raising my family, therefore that's the company that I want to work for.